Good morning, dear colleagues. I hope you are doing well after a glow of the floor. This was not too easy. So our first speaker is Dave Hebert. Our first speaker is Dave Hebert, who is ECMO coordinator of Our Lady of the Lake Regional Medical Hospital. Please.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Just to say it's nice to be back in Sanibel. I'd like to thank Marco, Richard, Carl Amal. I don't think Carl is up yet, and Epic for having me back again this year. Thank you. Sorry. Oh, Carla woke up. That's amazing. Well, hey, Carla, how are you? Very good. Carla, I've been friends since I had hair, I think. So again, I appreciate you having me. It's really great to talk to you guys as perfusionists because I'm not a perfusionist, but I remember coming back from ECMO class from Johns Hopkins back in 2002 or so, thinking, man, ECMO was great. And I used to sit with our perfusionists, pretend to be a perfusion assistant, learning, but this is great. And I remember thinking, I'm going to go to perfusion school after about 3 years of ECMO. So I went home and said, honey, I have something to say. She says, yeah, me too. I'm like, I want to go to perfusion school. She goes, hey, we're pregnant. I'm like, shit, okay. So that's the reason why I never went. But anyway. So today I'm going to talk about starting an ECMO program and how to maintain it. I've been very lucky to have been a program manager for about the last 15 years, mostly pediatrics. And about a year ago, I jumped to the dark side of adults because I thought I would never do adults. We'll talk a little bit about that, but kind of how to go through it, how to make it happen. So I have no financial disclosures. So today we'll talk about review ELSO guidelines for programs and my personal experience. So you want to start an ECMO program, right? And your institution says they want to do that. You're absolutely crazy. It is a lot of crazy hard work and a lot of heartbreak, but a lot of reward also. So look at ELSO guidelines. I do not work for ELSO. I do participate annually, and I am a member of AMSEC also. I've been working with AMSEC for about 6 years now. So again, I do give back to your community, and I'm really appreciative of what you guys do and have given for us. So there are basically 5 phases to starting a new ECMO program. There is a lot of information in the ELSO Red Book, which is considered the Bible, in my opinion. So I tried to pick the most important things without boring you guys. So we'll kind of go through pretty quickly, or maybe painlessly. So initiating the program, planning, execution, auditing, and development. So phase 1, initiation. So you should survey the available resources and potential program needs. So ECMO is a resource-intensive service, both financially and in terms of staffing requirements. So you also want to look at the same time, what's your environment, right? So California, Texas, and Florida will all have a little bit over 30 ECMO programs, at least listed in ELSO. You have states like Vermont, Montana, maybe New Hampshire have 1 ECMO program. Hawaii has 1 ECMO program, right? So you want to be cautious about where you start these programs. And it's not just our choice, but just in general. If you look up north in Boston, which is my favorite city, go Sox, there's 6 programs in Boston, all amazing programs. Houston has 6. Orlando has 4 or 5. So you want to look at these things and make sure you're not duplicating a service that's there already and drowning out that need. Ensure hospital leadership commitment. So make sure the CEO all the way down to the CNO to the respiratory department, they're involved and they're buying into this. They're all wanting to put the financial resources and support of your program. Investments, allocation of money. So you want to make a pro forma, right? You want to make sure you have the right thing to present to administration. Starting a program costs a lot of money. This program I helped start recently about a year ago. Looking at the pro forma, it cost about $3.5 million to start this program. And this is for making sure you have the right physicians to drive the program. You have the resources for staffing, for leadership, for equipment. So again, it's a lot of work. And then firm commitments for down the road, right? Make sure you have money for training and education support for that. Service maintenance for equipment, design staffed ICUs. Who's going to care for these patients, for the bedside staff? Are these ICU nurses and RTs going to have special ECMO training to be, if they're not becoming ECMO specialists, at least how to take care of these patients? And then surgical services, interventional services, and blood bank. One program hospital I'm working with that wants to start a neonatal program doesn't have a robust blood bank. So I'm like, well, you need blood. So we're working with them right now to say, how do you get blood from your local center? Make sure we have all of these 4 or 5 units of blood on hold every time we have a case. Again, so moving for initiation, define the scope and goals of ECMO service. So they should be clearly aligned with the hospital's goals and habits of their population. If you can start a neonatal program, again, like I just said, you don't want to start with right next up to, a really robust neonatal program, you want to make sure that the population they serve is something that's going to fit. If the hospital's mean patient age is 84 years old, probably not going to do a lot of ECMO there, right? So you got to be cautious. Cardiac versus pulmonary ECMO. There are some centers that do only pulmonary ECMO. If you come from a cardiac center like I did, that sounds kind of silly, but it does happen, right? So you need to be cautious about that. How do you approach it? With which supplies? Which avenue you're going to take? You have cardiac surgeons, general surgeons. You have a cath lab. Again, all taken consideration. And then historical review of patient admissions and ACLS inclusion criteria. So like I just said, if your average patient age is 85, probably not. But you want to make sure they're getting those patients in the last year or so that probably could have used ECMO, maybe expired, maybe, I think COVID brought this to everyone's attention. How can you make sure you're going to catch everyone's needs? Identify key stakeholders and program leads. So again, kind of repeats a little bit we said earlier. Who's going to be there to support your program? Who's going to be there at the midnight hour when you're needing more equipment or needing something else? Who's going to be there? Develop a multidisciplinary steering committee. So this is really, I think is really important. When I took over the program at Children's of New Orleans, we didn't have an ECMO committee. So I developed one of all the key stakeholders. And that's where we decided how we do ECMO. We don't decide how we do ECMO at the bedside. We decide how we can move forward the program behind closed doors. We hash those ideas out in private, then we move forward as a program. Medical director, program director, again, all these people make sure we follow the guidelines we set for our institution. And I think, what you set for your institution should be center specific. So whatever you're doing across the street at your ECMO center, that's great. But what works for us, we need to focus on those things. And then, coordinator, manager, and so we have to look at budget as a coordinator at Children's for one, and here now, I'm a department of one. So I'll do a little bit of everything. And so you have to look at budget, daily operations, equipment management, staffing, education, have to put all that together. I suggest don't do it by yourself. It kind of makes you tired. So get some help. I'm kind of the person that doesn't like asking for help. I think it's a horrible trait, but trust me, ask for help. Develop your program charter, kind of talk about a committee. Make sure you have all that together. Make sure you have support across the board. Planning and assigning tasks for clinical operational importance. Again, share the wealth of everyone. If there's something that someone can bring to the table that's their field of expertise, let them do it. If there's someone from blood bank willing to help you out, let them be that spokesperson. I am not the spokesperson for red blood cells. I know how they work a little bit, but that person gets to be the person in charge of that. And then clear timelines, objectives, and deliverables and outcomes. Be clear about everything. Make sure that what you want for the program is what is needed. Make sure those things are followed through, and to the end of the day, make sure that it's happening. If not, circle back and maybe make a new plan. Administrative and institutional commitment. Again, this is a lot. It's not like it's repeating, but it really is a little breakdown differently. If you look through the book, I'm probably ruining it at the moment, but it's a lot more detailed. It's crucial to have support from the highest level of leadership. We said that. Where I'm at now, our CEO comes to our ECMO committee meetings and occasionally, and has insight of what we're doing and has really been supportive. Strategic plans of the hospital mission is their strategic plan, make sure we're in line with that. And collaboration. So speaking of collaboration, so every morning at 10 o'clock we have ECMO, we do ECMO rounds. And it's a small group of us. It's myself, of course, physician, bedside staff, palliative care, OT, PT, blood bank, pharmacy, a couple more people. And they show up pretty much every day. And we talk about the daily goals of the patient. Because how many times do you guys experience this? We do rounds in the morning, just generic rounds, right? And then we can talk about, we'll take off volume today and do this. And at 7 o'clock at night, you get a phone call. Hey, we're about 2 liters positive, right? Because nobody said anything about adding CRT. And so that drives me crazy. So I developed this here to make sure we follow this. We're on the same page. We walk away. We talk about what we're doing for the day and maybe the next couple of days. Again, there's no tangents at 8 o'clock at night. All right, so you did all that. Now it's time to plan, more planning, pushing forward. So the administration says, yes, we're gonna make an ECMO program, and here are your rules to follow. Like, here's your guidelines. What are you gonna do? So policies, procedures. Who likes writing policies, procedures? No, you're lying. Okay, you want a job? So make sure you have policies and procedures, right? Or if you have a SOP, whatever your program calls it, to protect your staff, protect yourself, and make sure your patients are cared for. I don't always like policy. I like writing guidelines because, as we know what we do, there's a lot of gray area. We're sitting behind the pump. well, I might not give as much volume today, I might do this. So just be cautious about that. Again, steering committee and review the policy and procedures together, make sure it's all aligned. That way, when something goes down on Saturday night and you have to go to court 3 months later, we're all on the same page. Clinical and administrative responsibilities and expectations. So I let the real heavy lifting go to my administrator. I know my place at the table. I've learned it the wrong way over the years, and let them do the heavy lifting with administrators behind the closed doors and make sure they fight for the money or they push for advocacy for new equipment. Let them do that heavy lifting if that helps your program. And skills competencies, so we all do wet drills on our teams. Often you need to do it. For a new program, we're still using staffing from different staffing companies, but we're currently growing our own team. So we're a new program. We've only done 13 cases in a year, which is pretty good. We're going to do drills every month for a while because these are all brand new people. I always make sure my program has staff have to do a minimum amount of annual hours. So I always say at least 100 hours per year. Now that doesn't seem like a lot. That's 9 shifts, but my last program, we did 25 cases a year. So 100 hours each is easy to attain. And I felt like most people got between 200 and 300 hours a year. But again, making sure you're keeping up with competency. Excuse me, and continuing education. So I think it's really important for all of us, right? So I have this program, a monthly platform called ECMO Chat. And it's a monthly education platform. We talk about center-specific education versus generic ECMO and even some perfusion education. In fact, when we do wet drills, I have a perfusion handbook manual that I stole, a bunch of ideas from because it's more, some of the stuff is a little more in depth than the ECMO stuff, but I just want them to know where we're coming from, why are we doing this? And I think it's really more important to teach people how you do it, but you should know why you're doing it. So more and more planning, right? So team composition and assessment, cannulating physicians, docs, who's been certified. You make sure your institution that hasn't become certified. How about continuing education? That seems to be the hardest thing for our ECMO program managers. Make sure all their docs are following continuing education. You can make it where they go to so many conferences per year, make sure they do so many cases per year. That has always been a bit of a headache for myself, especially. Again, keeping their skills up. And ECMO, how's the team going to be? So you could be just RT, RN, perfusion. I think the best teams are multidisciplinary because we all learn from each other. You guys are great at, formulas and radius and all this stuff with circuitry. I'm like, yeah, I trust you, whatever you say. As RTs, I could look at the blood gas and go, hey, it's partially compensated respiratory acidosis. Like, oh, okay, wow. And then nurses, you guys know idea right away to starting dose norepi. I don't know what that is. I trust you, right? So I think having all these people together, we all learn from each other, makes it really cohesive. And then your coordinator, and so do you have a single coordinator? Do you have an educator? Is your program robust enough to have the extra resources? If you do, great. I think it's important. Collect data. We are also a member, and so we use benchmarking very often to make sure our program is, at least for a new program, where we're at, and make sure we're doing well. Again, more planning, training, education, right? Said a little bit about this. And who's going to train your people? So should it be ELSO certified? Yeah, that's up to you. I think ELSO does a great job, but also at the same time, I think that if you have people who are experienced and skilled to understand the basics of ECMO, then those people could also develop a training program. Most of these training programs are 3 to 5 days, 24 to 36 hours, didactics, 8 to 16 hours of drills, and ongoing training. Of course, we talked about this, but again, making sure you get all of the information to the team for that training week is important. I always ended the week, I started the week off with a pre-ECMO assessment exam, and just to kind of see if they have a basic understanding of human physiology, and if they really should be in that class. And at the end, we take a final exam, right? What have you learned? What have you did learn? That's really, again, just the base where you're at the moment. If you get every question wrong, I may raise an eyebrow, but I'll sit with those people and do like an oral exam and say, hey, so, Carly, you missed 26 out of 27 questions, right? What are we going to do? But I'll sit down with them and do a verbal exam to see how well they do. Again, we're planning, right? Supplies and equipment, disposables, there's a lot of vendors out there, and you use what you like and whatever your hospital allows you to use as a vendor. It should be based on your target population. If it's pediatrics or adults or a mixture, what's the best for your patients? I think, starting off, you should have a minimum of 2 ECMO devices. and depending what you should also have a maximum amount of ECMO in your program. So you can't do infinite ECMO, but you should know where that stops at. And if you reach that point, can you rent equipment? Can you get equipment overnight? Do you have the resources to back that? Do you have hospital administration support to grow that program even further? And then you should always, I think you should have at least 2 platforms in your program. As we know in the industry, things happen. And so you want to make sure if you have a problem, you can't get any more of this ECMO pump, you can call this other vendor and you can have a rental there in 12 hours. So I think that's really important also. Finally, let's go execution, right? We get to do ECMO. So we implement the program. You want to set realistic go live date. You don't want to rush it. If it takes 6 months to launch, then it takes 6 months, right? You don't want to push anything before everyone is ready. That includes your, includes your admission department. If you have a transport program and they're getting all of your consults for you, or they're coming directly to you, make sure that's recorded. I think that's also good to know who your support is out in the community. You want to launch at low complexity cases, or hopefully, right? You want your first 1 or 2 be those easy home runs, and you hope they are. And again, that will increase the morale of your team. First case kind of said a little about this. You want it to be an easy home run. Our first case, we thought was going to be a great home run. The guy had a PE, relatively healthy, great VV ECMO, doing well. Developed a cardiac tamponade. Okay, so put a drain in, doing great, wouldn't stop bleeding. We stopped anticoagulation, wouldn't stop bleeding. So we went to OR, go cardiac surgeons, opened him up. He had bleeding, all right. He was bleeding from his liver. He had liver cancer, was not detected in any testing before we put him on. So we had to take him off, and unfortunately he passed away, right? So we thought we had a great home run, but we still thought it was a success because we did what we thought was right for the patient. Had we known this, of course, we would never have gone on. But so things happen, right? You take it in stride and you move forward. Looking at registry data, again, best candidate possible. And eventually you can increase your complexity of patients, right? You may add ECPR if you have the right staff in the hospital 24/7, may do hospital transport. We did our first transport 3 months into the program. My doc, I met him like my first day of work. Hey, nice to meet you. We can do ECMO together. I hope we like each other. He said, you want to go on transport? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So we did our first transport 3 months into the program, and it worked well, right? We both had experience doing this, so we just combined our resources together. Now we're one of only 2 programs in the state of Louisiana who offer remote cannulation. So we got lucky doing that so quickly, but it worked out well. And then bridge to transplant services. We don't do transplants, but we've had patients who we had to bring to other states or other programs who we put on. We knew right away, this is the highest level of care we could provide for this patient. Let's get them to somewhere else, and we did that right away. And then require additional resources, expertise, and staffing. Make sure that's all ready to go. Maintenance of equipment, who's going to do it is your biomed department. You send it back to the vendor. Again, that's all about cost with administration. I think do what's best for your program, and hopefully they'll support you. Ongoing training, again, continuing education for everyone. Develop center-specific guidelines and competencies. I think that's really important. We all probably do that. Continuing evaluation of staff and recreate in-house scenarios. So every year, my team gets a written exam. It's some basic ECMO stuff, but a lot of it is center-specific. So we had a Norwood who bled out at 2 in the morning. We got to go back and talk about that. What could we have done better, right? If we had a patient, we're going to CT and something horrible happens, we recreate those scenarios. But I put them in exams, that way it stays in their face. So remember what we do here, how we practice here. It doesn't matter what they do across the street. Finally, so you get to the next phase, auditing. Benchmarking KPIs are really important, and I think internal benchmarking is also important. If you're part of ELSO, they used to be called Arbormetrics, now it's a newer platform, and you can benchmark across many institutions. ECMO centers is not labeled specifically, but you could go against other high or low volume centers, ECPR centers, adult versus pediatric, and track effort and cost. So I track every reference or every consult we get. So far, I'm up like 62 consults in 15 months, which is pretty good. The first 15 or so were like, well, they've been down for 3 hours, right? That's not going to happen. And then, cost. So we look at every day. I handle charges for the program for ECMO every day, initiation costs, daily charges, cannulation manipulation charges. So keep track of that. Administration is going to want to know where the money is going and how much money is coming back in. And you should have a kickoff meeting, right? Be proud of that. Maybe you should invite your local media. Hopefully have a really good marketing program, and they'll make sure media is there and you get to broadcast, hey, we have this program, we're rolling. Send it to your patients, right? Build it, they will come, supposedly. And finally, development, right? So you continue developing your baby. This is your baby now, right? And so you continue developing your program. Make sure privileges, credentials are covered. If you could go out and do transport and cannulate other places, make sure your surgeon or your physician has privileges there. If not, work those things out, which could be a little hairy. Make sure you have always advanced training, good patient selection, and clinical research. Always expand your scope of service. Like I said, if you could add ECPR, transport, anything like that. I am a firm believer in following the ELSO path, the Center of Excellence Award, and it's about really just showing your team. Yeah, it's good to brag to, well, here we're gold, we're platinum, and that's great. But it really increases the morale of your team and your hospital to show that all the money they put into this program, all the trust they put into you, it's really gone to a good place, and you've been somewhat successful. And they always keep a detailed database. Like I said, I track every referral. I'm very, very type A, and I think you have to be in this position. And I have different, data lists of every patient who is morbidly obese versus a 3-day run versus, so many different things, who had thrombocytopenia. So again, it's good to know all that. So I'm gonna tell you a bit of my experience here. So build it and they will come, we hope, right? So you put a sign out, hey, we have ECMO for sale. Anybody want to go on ECMO? Anybody, volunteers? It doesn't happen that way, right? So we're waiting and waiting and waiting. So our first case didn't go on until day 76 that we launched, right? And every day I'm thinking, man, I'm gonna get fired because we don't have any ECMO. I have no way to justify my income. So it finally does happen, and you're all excited, right? And again, we talked about that first case, hope it's a winner. You do everything, goes well, and everybody comes around. It's like in Utah in a hospital. Everyone comes look at you where you're either sitting or cannulating, whatever you're doing. And it's like, hey, you want to learn about this? No, I don't want to go anywhere near that, right? But you have a few people that want to learn. And so I try to corral the nurses and RTs and anyone. Come sit down with us a little bit, learn what we're doing, right? This may be great for your career. Nurses have so many avenues to grow into. Us as respiratory therapists, it's limited, right? So I think ECMO is a natural progression for us. We're already manipulating the blood, so let's manipulate a little bit more blood. So the next part, it's finally time to work, right? So we get to work, and then, here's one of our lovely nurses who wants to be an ECMO specialist, thank God, and just kind of showing the thrill of, hey, we're taking care of ECMO again. And this is our doctor, Dr. Owen Stell, who I call him Doogie Howser because it looks like he's 12 years old. So great guy. So again, just in when it's time to work, we know what it's like. Dedication, right? It takes a lot of dedication from all of us, from you guys, perfusions to doctors to nurses to blood bank, everyone that's involved in the program. This is something that we did 2 a.m. I forgot what we're doing, but you're on call. It's what you signed up for, right? You can't complain about that. But you go to work 2 a.m. and you fix the patient, or you hope you fix them. And this is us driving to, we drove to Houston to bring a patient who we thought maybe needed a transplant. It was a long 11-hour drive to Houston and back. And I don't do well in the back of an ambulance. I'd rather fly. And at one point I was ready to vomit, and my 2 coworkers were like, with the phone out, hey, are you okay? Because they're hoping I would get sick, right? So it was a lot of interesting drive. But we brought the patient there, and he did very well. So again, you do what you have to do, right? Yeah. Victory. So you finally have your victory. You have your first case, or you have your survivors, and it's really amazing, right? This is one of our recent guys came to us with like a 2% EF. So we put him on ECMO for 36 days, and he survived, right? So it was nice to see him. I was kind of kicking him out of the hospital. Hey, your bill's due, right? Get out of here, buddy. And this is our very first remote cannulation who survived. She was a postpartum who aspirated on day 2 of having her child, and went into ARDS, and we went out, we cannulated her, brought her back home. She was in ECMO for like, I think 13 days, maybe somewhere around there. Did well, survived, and we just wrote, the local paper did an article on her and what we did for her. So this reward, right? She gets to go home to her baby. She's had another baby since. So again, that's the reward we look for. And you want to celebrate, right? You want to have, not be too arrogant, but be happy. Your program is doing well. This is my administrator, right? He is the goofiest guy I've ever worked with, but he is the best damn administrator I've ever worked for. He goes on transport with us. He will sweat for you. He will cry for you. He's an amazing guy. He does think he's pretty funny, and he is funny. We came back from Houston. We stopped at Buc-ee's. Who does not stop at Buc-ee's when you have the opportunity, right? And I swear we didn't have a patient with us. It's on the way back, I promise. So it's Yeah, but it's 3 in the morning. We're excited, and we wake up. We got all this Buc-ee's food, and we're like, "Hey, this is great." Then realize we still have like 4 hours till we get home. So, but again, you got to have fun. And this is my, my two main guys here, administrator and physician. We met up at an LSU football game, and we had a couple of drinks and celebrating our victory so far. So, just my citation. So again, it's nice to be here. Thank you guys, and I look forward to maybe see you guys next year. If you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer.
Thank you, Dave, for the nice talk. Questions from the audience?
So that was great. A lot of great advice there. The one thing I might add, we've been doing this a really long time, and it took us years and years, but we now finally have our own dedicated data person. I don't know, who handles actually two things for us. One is our Intermax data entry for our VAD patients, and the other is our ELSO stuff. Because as you know, that's a major data ask. Lots of good stuff, but that's the one thing I would add. If I were starting an ECMO program today, I would ask very early for a data person.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time if you do data in your institution for ELSO data. It takes about an hour or two of just research for that patient, and that's using stuff like EMR, so it makes it easy, and then time to put it into data bank. So I would think about 2 hours per case is what it takes. You're right, and maybe one day I'll have that. And if your person needs a job, tell them to call me.
We have a question from the online audience. What's the best patient safety model for perfusionists to support ECMO teams that are run by nursing or ancillary departments?
I have an easier question than that. I think just being cautious of your patient, just, hands on and eyes on. And I think you never around the patient too much. We're all busy, but share some education, share some tips of what it's like if your patient's up and moving around, or if they're ambulating, just kind of share that wisdom and, be supportive of everyone. Okay. Hope that answered it. I don't know.
One more question?
We have time for another.
I have questions. How many ECMO cases are needed to justify implementing of ECMO program?
So that's a great question. I think it varies upon location. Looking back through the patients for the year or so before we started this program, they counted about 15, 20 patients per year that could have used ECMO. And again, this is looking at a lot of post-COVID patients at the same time. So I think that's what really pushed it. So our goal was to get at least 12 the first year, and we got 13. So we made administration very happy. But I'm hoping we get up to 60, 70, or 80, or 120. That would be my very happy place. So I know that's a strange idea, but that's what I'd like.
I have one more in the chat. Somebody wants to know, on your trip to Texas, did you run ACTs and blood gases in the ambulance? And did your point of care devices work for that long time? Did you run QCs in between?
So we did a bit of a cowboy thing. So we did not do any of that. We checked everything before we left, and we kind of gave a little bit extra of heparin before we left. And we did check glucoses in the way there, but that is about it. And so we just kind of got lucky. But again, lack of resources at the beginning will grow as we continue to grow.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks.